Good morning, friends, and welcome to Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch, a Trans India exclusive. Logistics as a segment has been getting a lot of attention. What is more interesting is that while we are thinking that logistics and more specifically road transport is an ignored segment, academically this segment has been catching a lot of eyeballs. Many institutions are now having courses dedicated to logistics, including the very prestigious IIMs. While these institutions have a well chalked out curriculum and expert professors, no one speaks about this segment better than the transporters themselves. They address the practical issues that probably are not found in any curriculum. Of late, a good number of transporters have been giving lectures at institutions, and the students apparently are loving the inputs that they are getting from the transporters. This, friends, is a classic example of moving India with Nayi Soch. We have with us today Reema Jogani from Reema Transport on Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch, who talks to us about the experience of delivering lectures at reputed institutions, including the prestigious IIM Ranchi. Reema has also been on the jury of academic awards. So let's hear from Reema on her experience and how students felt seeing a women transporter dealing with tough issues and situations. Only on Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch.
So, Professor Reema, tell us, how did you get into the space of teaching, or rather imparting knowledge?
Firstly, don't call me professor. I'm not a professor, but
at least you're taking up the role of a professor.
I am not. So honestly, it's just come to me. Okay, maybe reading the articles which I write in your magazine, or giving interviews, or talking in forums, people actually take you seriously and they understand that you know quite a bit. But so I was approached by a few colleges. One was IIM Ranchi. The second one was my own college where I did my post-graduation from, and LSC, that's Logistics Skill Council. And Logistics Skill Council during COVID also had given a lecture, and post-COVID also, in recent last year, I think I gave them a lecture online. IIM Ranchi and IES have been, IES of course because it's my college, so they've also given me an alumni award, and they of course know because they actually go through all my articles. So I think it's very important to, whatever you know, you have to impart that knowledge. We didn't have that, right? And if you ask me, theory-wise, we all are ready. Who's there to actually impart practical knowledge? So as a student, if I am getting into a sector, I need to know what are the pros and cons. And we didn't know. Like, it took me, every time I say I've worked outside before I joined my company, it took me around 10 years I worked outside. And when I joined here, it was completely different. I didn't know what it was, right? On face of facade-wise, it looks amazing. Logistics sector, male-oriented, which is not any longer male-oriented. It's just a taboo. I recently attended a forum, and I loved one lady speak saying that behind every successful man, there is a woman. But don't forget, a woman also, in the word woman, there is a man. So I think that diversity thing is just, so all these things, when you hear, when you impart knowledge, I think it's very, very important. So when I was approached, of course, first time I was like, okay, theory-wise, these guys are fantastic. What is it that I can give? Either I can share my experience, and also at the same time, phase manner, tell them how it took me to the journey of joining road transportation, and what actually from the time I joined road transportation, I joined my dad's business, how things changed and how they evolved.
But tell me, when you went for taking these classes or lectures, were the students aware of what logistics is all about, or it was too fresh for them?
So I actually, it was second year students, so of course they knew quite a bit. So theory-wise, they were really good. Of course, they are more knowledgeable in theory-wise, and I think nowadays students are more, so during our time, when we did our post-graduation, there were hardly any specializations. Now there's specializations. You can, in logistics also, there is subset, like you have freight forwarders, you have road transportation, sea, ocean, shipping. So same way is for your MBA. When you do your post-graduation, you have, if you say marketing is a broader view. So I realized students knew quite a bit, but practically, I don't think they knew. So I think internship is very important, because when we also did our post-graduation, we did internship. So it opens doors for them to know the practical world. Of course, they will not know the real pros and cons in 3 months or 1 month or 2 months, but at least they'll have an overview of what goes on in the industry.
But do they still consider that logistics or road transportation is a very harsh or a very tough space to be in? Was that the general feedback you got from them?
So because this was a very logistics specific lecture which I was giving, and it was logistics students, I think they were open-minded. Okay, if I talk of general management students, they will be a little, because they don't know in detail the practicalities. But when I was taking a lecture with the logistics students, they had a lot of inquisitiveness in practical roles, what really happens. So I told them, you all have to stop me and ask me a question. I'm going to tell you all how I started, and ask me questions. So I had to keep probing them. Please ask me so that I can impart that knowledge which I know. So like, for example, I told them when I joined, technology didn't play a very important role, because the professor had told me that please tell them more about technology. And Girish, honestly, there's a lot which is offered when it comes to technology. But the company which you work with and what stream you're working, how much of technology you should invest and how much of it is useful, you have to know that. And that you'll know only when you work. So that was something which was very important for me to tell the students, because it becomes like a big lecture where they say, oh, AI plays importance, robotics is there, warehousing this. But jo basic hota hai, when do you make it a program? Only when you know the basic pretty well, right? And basic practical knowledge, then you can do all your automation.
Right.
Automation is also from somewhere.
I mean, it can be done without a base.
It cannot be done without the base. So telling them that was very important. Also telling them how important it is to go up the ladder in a phase manner and not jump. Okay, so what happens during our times, we were very happy with whatever salary. It was important to get a job.
Get in, yes.
It was not about, I want this money. See, if you're looking at money, then you're going to keep swapping jobs. But if you're going to look at learning and sustaining yourself, you can grow within the organization. That is what I have learned over a period of time in my non-logistic sector and logistic sector. Okay, in my road transportation as well as in non-logistic. So that was important to impart to them, which they were unaware. What are the difficulties as a transporter we face was also important. You can't just keep giving them the rosy picture. Like, of course, in lectures, there is all theory and they don't really know the quirks of what the business can. So they have to know what they're going to fight tomorrow if they're going to enter this industry. Or startups, right? So there are a lot of these colleges where students may be really great with ideas. But are they really ready to be entrepreneurs? They may get funded, whatever. But are they going to do it in a phased manner? So first they should learn. So I was interacting with one of the students who always is in touch with me, and he say, you know, ma'am, I just see your post and I see what you write, and I would love to get guided by you. And then he asked me, what should I do? And eventually I would want to do something by myself. I said, it's very important to have aspirations, but it's very important to have knowledge.
Absolutely.
To have that knowledge, you have to work. Okay, and you have to work within the firm in different streams. If you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur in logistics sector, you will have to even work at the bottom line.
That's where you have to ideally start.
Talk to drivers, make an LR, understand memo, understand what advances are, look at billing, look at operations, look at finance, look at planning.
You need the whole space.
Yeah,
actually.
so you can be jack of all, master of none. That is what an entrepreneur ideally should do. Okay, look at technology. So a lot of students also asked me, oh, you know, technology is being so important. How do you manage? So I had to practically tell them that when I joined, it was only GPS, and then we gradually invested in sensors, temperature sensors, data loggers, because we into pharma.
Right.
But we did it in a phased manner. There will be world to tell you, ye low technology, ye sab hai, ye reports aega. Okay, now, then I had to actually even tell them that if I today, what is the biggest challenge with transporters? I threw a question to them. What is the biggest challenge? So two of them put their hands up. And one of them made a relevant point saying that skilled staff. I said, exactly. I said, skilled to unskilled. Or whether, see, like generally, a graduate would join a road transportation industry, right? So I kind of told them that whether it's a graduate or a postgraduate, you also have to identify being in the firm, have a mentor, then having a mentor will guide you the way ahead. It is extremely important. I was always guided. You've been one of my mentors, you know that I've never shied. And I kept telling him, please keep asking questions.
But tell me, Reema, did you make any specific preparations for this? Or you just randomly went and you just knew yourself the way you are?
Specifically told them I don't want to make presentations. And I'll tell you why.
No, apart from presentation, did you prep yourself in any manner?
No. If I have to prep myself, that means I'm not being true. Okay. Even with you, whenever I'm giving an interview, I've never prepped. Okay. But because the moment you prep, that means you're not giving them the real crux of what the business is and what they're getting into. It's okay to fumble. It's okay not to know. Okay. But I think it's important to give them the real picture.
But do you think it is also important that somebody from the road transport industry is actually now being invited by education institutions to talk about this sector? Do you think that is a welcome change?
Absolutely. Because during my times, we had logistic as a supply chain as one of few lectures, right? मुझे तो कुछ मालूम ही नहीं था.
It was not mainstream.
It was not a mainstream. Now they have like one whole lecture on logistics. They have a curriculum. So actually, I've been a part of a lot of. So recently, in fact, last week, I presented like a 2-minute presentation on curriculum to state government and higher education with private players like LSC. And they were actually focusing on retail, logistics sector, BFSI sector, where they wanted to. So I actually made a curriculum as for what I felt. And my focus actually was on, it's not about, so a part of it was entrepreneurship, a part of it was finance, a part of it was compliances, a part of it was human behavior. Because I think that all plays a very important role, even when you're working, not as an entrepreneur, but even when you're working in an organization. When I'm talking of human behavior, shifting from one role to another is not correct. You have to understand, you master that role within the firm shift. Okay. Then talking of financial, you have to know where the investments have to go. Like if you're working in accounts, for example, you are in a road transportation. How are they investing? What is the investing pattern? Tomorrow, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to have that much knowledge to know. So every stream is important in logistics. Operations, okay, if your vehicle is going from here to there, how do you manage getting a return load? How do you plan? So all those things and I said having a mentor is very important and asking questions is the most important. So I worked on, so that I actually presented on that, and I also presented to my college on curriculum on general management, that how important it is to get practical knowledge, doing case studies. I was also a part of recently, my college had come up with a case study on crisis management. And by a myth, they feel logistics go through crisis management extremely often. And so there were around 10,000 viewers. And we were the sole partners. Reema Transport was the sole partner. And there were 66 participants, 24 presentations. Out of that, 11 were shortlisted, and I was a jury for 11. And I was amazed with the kind of things kids present and the way they think. But practically amazing. Theoretically amazing, practically when they're out there, only when they work, we will know.
That is when the real challenge is.
But I want to emphasize more on my lectures on how inquisitive students were to figure out what's really happening and how much do we know and how it'll impact. So,
did the subject of drivers come up?
Yes. That is like, so, there's this one student who
So
asked
what was
me,
the perception on drivers basically?
so they said, "आप लोग, how do you manage drivers? And उन लोग दारू पीते हैं, ऐसा हम सुने हैं. How do you all manage that?" And so I told him, because we are in a specific specialized sector, we train our drivers, we tell them what are the benefits, and we also tell them what they are carrying. So I think it is also about training them regularly, talking to them. And it cannot be only your people talking. Even the higher authorities, people have to talk to the drivers. It is very, very important. That is like the key. So they were very inquisitive. Then they also asked me a question. We've heard, how do you manage your fleet? Which I don't think we even knew. हमें तो मालूम ही नहीं था. So that person asked me, how do you manage your fleet? GPS, I said, see, geofencing happens. GPS say you track, okay, this is going to be the return load. But return load is not necessary that you will get it with material inside. And I may get a pharma or I may not get a pharma. Right. So what do? So you divert it to the nearest route, the nearest branch where there is. So planning is extremely important. So those things they are not aware of. When they're studying theory, they don't understand. All this only comes with practical knowledge.
We will continue our interaction with Reema after this very short break. You are watching Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch, a Trans India exclusive.
How do you really define new? They say the new takes you beyond possible and makes you do what's unthinkable. Now imagine a world where trucks never have to stop, where no one has to wait when there is an emergency, and happiness always arrives on time. In a hurried world, no one worries about kids getting to school safely. Fathers always come home with a surprise. Mothers sleep peacefully when their son is out on the road 24/7. In a digitally connected world, the real connections are never lost. Friendships are never left behind when work gets tougher. The wheels are kept moving by dedicated professionals. And ultimately, it's not just technology, but people who save the planet. The new thinking not only makes our business grow, but also gives us newer ways to celebrate life. Eicher, Nayi Soch, नए रास्ते.
Welcome back to Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch, a Trans India exclusive. We are in conversation with Reema Jogani from Reema Transport, who is sharing her experience of delivering lectures at colleges and institutions.
But even Reema, the road transport industry has so many experts, so many transporters with a lot of experience. Should associations also start organizing seminars, conferences within themselves to educate the younger transporters?
100%. 100%, yes. Like, I think it's very important. Associations need to take that lead. And I think if they do, because see, the people who are heading associations are veterans, right? They are quite old in the industry. You don't get a post. They've worked for like 30, 40 years. And like, I personally feel what my father knows is practically,
It's phenomenal.
yeah, or Dilip Bhai would know. They would know much more than what I would know. I'm from the much later generation.
And that needs to go down to a larger mass.
So I always say old methods plus new methods make a brilliant combination. It's not about what only new methods making everything look fancy, is not great. It's important to also imply what your old methods have been. Today, even if you look at an ERP implementation within the firm going online, so we have a customized ERP solution where my father gave in a lot of inputs, what he really wants, how the reports should look. So also, Girish, I want to emphasize on what I was also telling the students. There's a lot of data. But today, if I go and tell my driver, people keep saying, we will give you higher efficiency, aap ye tire use kar lo, we'll give you this report. Or, the OEMs will come and say, this is the report, the driver behavior. Tell me, honestly, if I go and tell that to my driver, is he going to stay with me? He's not going to stay with me. What is going to keep him with me practically? So that is also which I actually told the students. What is going to keep with me? How my relationship with him is. How he is getting incentivized. How he is motivated as a person. How we also take initiatives to celebrate Drivers Week. I was also a part of Smart Driver Award. I was a part of the jury. And I think it's a great initiative. And when I was actually talking to I actually interviewed drivers. And of course, some of it is, camouflaged. But I just understood that how their lives are so difficult. So that also to tell the students was important.
Right.
मतलब हम सब camouflage बोल के नहीं बोल सकते कि everything is perfect.
Yes.
Till the time
There
you're
are
not
some
in the
grey
shoes,
areas.
there are some grey areas and you all have to be ready for the grey area. That does not mean you don't join the sector. It is challenging. I still feel मैं हमेशा बोलती हूँ, रोज कुछ नई चीज आती है. Every day is a learning thing. Of course, then some of them said, how's the infrastructure? What do you think about infrastructure? What is it lacking? I said, government is doing brilliant. They're making freight corridors. They're making multi-logistic parks. They're doing a lot. They're spending a lot of money on logistic. In fact, last year when you interviewed me, Mr. Modi ji also announced that he's going to have every few kilometers resting place for drivers, which is, I think, fantastic. Okay, so that I also told them that if you guys look at working in a transport company, or you should understand the needs of the drivers.
Absolutely.
And take care of them, because they are the bread earners of the company. If they are not on wheels, how will your company earn? So it's very important. So human resource plays a very important role here.
Right. Now, Reema, transporters are always believed to be stuck with their work. Going forward, will you be taking out more time to talk to more of these students?
Of course, yes. I think imparting knowledge, what I know, I would love to do that. Why would you not want to impart knowledge? Theory, everyone knows. Practically, I think you have to, right? Because what I lacked, I don't want someone else to face. And they are future.
Absolutely.
Why would you not want the future to be ready there?
Finally, Reema, what was the reaction of the students seeing, a young lady transporter coming and talking to them?
I think they were very happy. I think it's also
Surprised?
about the comfort. So yes, there were certain questions there. How come you joined? And they, of course, asked me about my experience, which I think I've spoken enough all the time in my interviews. But they were surprised because not a male talking and a female talking. But I kind of told, like I told you earlier when I started my interview, behind every successful man, there's a woman. And I love that saying, so I think behind every successful woman, there's a man. So I'm here today because of my father. So there's a man behind me who's looking and ensuring that I work well and I learn everything at the time. He imparted a lot of knowledge to me. Within my firm, I learn a lot from my colleagues. I learn a lot from my team. And I think it is not about also what I I personally feel students, when I also told them, it's never you, it's we. Inculcate we. What you can achieve.
gotta be teamwork.
It's a teamwork. It's not what you achieve. It's Reema Transport Company. And in company, there are a lot of parameters. So with operations, you need maintenance, you need accounting, you need billing. Wherever there are gaps, you have to fill in. So I think that is extremely important. So I kept probing them all the time that please understand. So these things they will never know. These things colleges don't teach. Of course, human resource will be one lecture, but that will only cover the
Someone
overview.
practically giving them the story is very, very different.
So I also told them that, you know, you all, so like I was telling you about this, one of the students who was talking to me, I said, work on case studies also. Understand what were the failures. You guys are young minds, you all will have better solutions. Maybe we may implement it. You know, so you don't know. And it's not important, it can be from logistics sector, but there can be takeaways.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of takeaways which you learn from students and students learn from you. Practically they learn from you. But they may have solutions at a very raw stage.
Some ideas they may have which you can actually work on.
Which you can work on, yeah. And another thing which I actually gave out the message is that please stick to where you're working. Don't flip jobs because what will you learn otherwise?
Absolutely.
Unless you are unaware आपको क्या करना है. If you're not aware कि मुझे ये नहीं करना है और आपको नहीं अच्छा लगे, then you switch, it's a different thing. But you know you want to be in this sector, learn and master it. Don't just keep switching for 2 years, you not learn. Don't switch for money.
It is very clear that logistics is set to grow at a fast pace, and we can only be sure that there is ample talent being rolled out of colleges that are offering specialized courses in logistics. At the same time, we are delighted that transporters like Reema, Harinderpal Kaur, Jigar Somaiya, and many others are taking time out to visit these institutions and share their knowledge and experience with the next gen logisticians. We will be back again next week with yet another very interesting interaction. You have been watching Eicher Presents Moving India with Nayi Soch, a Trans India exclusive. Until next week, stay safe and drive safe. Jai Hind.